Welcome back, folks, to Hashtag AskGSM. I'm Graham GSM Matthews for November 23rd, 2015, less than 24 hours removed from WWE Survivor Series. Pretty lackluster show. I enjoyed it for the most part. I'll get into my thoughts on the show in just a couple minutes. I am using my mic today, so hopefully the audio is better. It wasn't deplorable last week, but I'm finally able to use my camera and mic with this current setup now that I'm home for the week for Thanksgiving, so that's pretty great. So our pre-Thanksgiving episode of Hashtag AskGSM here today. But before we get into your questions, as always, guys, be sure to send in your questions via Twitter at WrestleRant with hashtag AskGSM, on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews, and also on YouTube right here in the comments section. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's video. So with that being said, got a slew of questions, and that's a good word, isn't it, from you guys over YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter last night. Immediately following the pay-per-view, you guys sent them in like crazy, so thank you for that. We'll get down to answering them right now. So first, from Frank Shear15, should Goldust feud with Stardust? I would think so. I want to see it. I know they kind of feuded for a cup of coffee earlier this year on the road to WrestleMania, and reportedly WWE nixed it because they didn't like the outcome of the match at Fastlane and the fan reaction to it. I still say that's bullshit. I liked the match at Fastlane. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people thought it was. But I didn't really feel like it was means to nix the entire feud. I thought that was kind of bullshit. That's maybe just me. But anyway, Goldust is back. I was very excited to see him on the pre-show last night and eliminate his team won over Stardust's team. I know Stardust does not mean anything right now. Apparently he was en route to feuding with Cearo, which I couldn't have given two shits about. Cearo is so much better than that. Nothing against Cody or Stardust or whatever. I love Cody Rhodes. I've gone on the record and saying that multiple times. But the whole Stardust gimmick, it's not that it's bad and he's doing the best that he can with it, but the guy's a loser. He loses every single week. He's paired with two losers in the Ascension who were much better off in NXT. That's another rant for another day. But anyway, I would like to see it. I mean, what's the harm, really? I don't really see Goldust feuding with Owens as it has been teased on Twitter and whatnot. Would be cool. I just don't really see that happening. So yeah, I'd put them in a feud with one another. I mean, in a dream scenario, for the fifth fucking year in a row, I would put them in a... I can't believe I keep on saying this, but for the fifth year in a row, I would love to see them face off at WrestleMania. I know it was going to happen at 28, 29, 30, and 31, but now it can finally happen. I don't know if that's really in the plans. I doubt that it is. But it would be great to see them finally culminate that long-awaited feud at WrestleMania with Stardust finally becoming Cody Rhodes again. My dream booking, don't expect it to happen, but that's what I would do. Their second question, was Cearo possibly out of action for a few months? Will this hurt his chance of ever becoming a main eventer? It's not like the guy was involved in anything noteworthy, let's face it, before he left. Had two amazing matches with Sheamus and Roman Reigns in the past couple weeks on Raw, and maybe some people were hoping that would lead to a chance of him becoming a main event star at some point, but I highly, highly doubt it, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I really honestly think that he was going to feud his Stardust before he left. I mean, that was teased right after the match, I think on SmackDown, after he beat Miz in a couple minutes, after like a minute or so. Stardust, and they were like two passing ships in the night, and they kind of looked at each other as one went up the ramp and the other went down. So that was probably the next step for Cearo, which is nothing noteworthy. They could have gotten good matches out of the feud, like I said, but no one gave a shit about Stardust. No one gives a shit about Stardust right now, anyway. Which is a shame, given the guy's talents, but that's WWE's booking of him, unfortunately. So, right now, I know the guy's going to be out for 4 to 6 months. I'm not saying that's a good thing, and it's not going to be one of those things where it's a blessing in disguise. He can come back better than ever. When he comes back, he'll probably be at the same level that he was at before he left. I still say there's more hope for a Cearo push at a main event level than like a guy like Dolph Ziggler, who's been there and back multiple times. Cearo has never been there before. He's, flirted with the main event scene here and there over the last couple of years, most notably over the summer when he faced Cena for the U.S. title in the main event of Raw. But other than that, though, he really has not come close to getting that main event slot that he deserves, and he was not going to get that close before he got injured. I mean, it sucks that he's out, because I love Cearo, regardless of whether he's opening the show or closing it. The guy's an amazing wrestler, but it's not like he was, en route to winning the Royal Rumble before he got hurt, so it's not a huge loss for Cearo. I mean, it is for the fans, but hopefully by that time when he comes back, maybe Tyson Kidd will be ready to come back, and they'll put those guys back together, or have him win Money in the Bank. Fingers crossed. I know that's not happening, but that'd be awesome too. The first KFC from YouTube. What's next for the Wyatt family? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I said a couple weeks ago I would love to see them enter a feud with the Dudley Boys. That was kind of teased over Twitter over the summer when Luke Harper and Eric Rowan first reunited and the Dudley Boys had yet to come back. That would be a great feud to see, considering that I think the matches could be awesome. But Bray Wyatt's coming off a loss to Roman Reigns inside Hell in a Cell, a loss to the Brothers of Destruction at Survivor Series. The guy's not exactly in the best place right now. Now, that being said, whatever he does next, he should win. The Dudley Boys, I feel, are more flexible. I know also they are coming off a loss. Not at Survivor Series, they won there, but in the WWE title feud, or WWE Tag Team title feud of the New Day. But those guys are so over. I mean, the whole get the tables thing is so over. They're so over. It doesn't even matter. They're there to put people over. So if they lost to the Wyatt family, it's not like they're dead and buried. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter that much. And they will be champions before long, so I really have no doubt about that. But I would like to see a feud of the Wyatt family. It doesn't really have to necessarily be over the championships. I feel like the Wyatt family, they've just been booked so haphazardly over the last couple of months that it just boggles my mind. There's so much talent in that one group with 4 guys that I honestly know whatever they do next. I honestly have no idea what they do next, other than a potential program of the Dudley Boys. But whatever they do, they need to win. They need to freaking win their next feud. I'm not just saying that I'm a complainer because I'm a huge Wyatt family fan. I love the Wyatt family, but I'm just saying this from a logical booking standpoint. The guys looked like losers coming out of Hell in a Cell. They were losers last night. I'm glad The Undertaker got his great showcase. It was an awesome entrance, a fun match, but the Wyatt family is dead and buried right now. They are dead beyond dead. They need a big win. They're a great gimmick. They can make their awesome entrance, but at the end of the day, regardless of what anyone says, in my personal opinion, it's all about those wins and losses, and they're not doing too well in that win column right now. So they need to win their next program. I'd put them in feud the Dudley Boys. At least you know they're going to go over in that case. The Wyatt family, that is. Other than that, I honestly don't know what else you do with them. Bray Wyatt, I would say put him in a feud with Randy Orton, but he's out right now. Cesaro's out right now, so what the hell do you do with the guy? It's got to be another tag team feud. Hopefully not with the Brothers of Destruction. I'm pretty sure that's done after last night, and they don't move forward with that. But yeah, Wyatt family Dudley Boys feud would be great for TLC and beyond. A second question, speaking of TLC, what's your card prediction for TLC? It's hard to say right now. Obviously, we'll find out more tonight on Raw, but I would reckon to guess either Sheamus and Reigns in a tables match or with Ambrose in a triple threat. I would rather see the triple threat, to be honest with you, if only because I feel like Reigns and Sheamus will die a death. No one cares about Sheamus right now, which I'll get to in a couple minutes. Roman Reigns, they had some decent matches over the summer, Reigns and Sheamus, but he's another guy that the babyface fans, the fans aren't really fully behind as a babyface just yet, and don't think for a fucking second that just because Sheamus is universally hated by the internet wrestling crowd, that they're going to start siding with Roman Reigns. People just won't care. They won't care, so don't give me that shit that they're going to start siding with Reigns just because they hate Sheamus. That's not how it works. Trust me, they're not going to care for that match at all. So I'd put Ambrose in there. I don't feel like that's the direction they're going, and I'm pretty sure it's just going to be Sheamus Reigns, so we'll say that for right now. Other than that, I'd do Charlotte Sasha. At one point I was petitioning for that match at WrestleMania, but let's face it, this division needs help. After the whole Reed Flair line last weekend Raw, the match last night I thought was really good. The crowd couldn't have given two shits because the feud's been horribly built and Paige has turned one too many times. She's like the Big Show of the Divas division. But they desperately need help. Sasha's from Boston, I'll be at the show. Sasha's from Boston. She got a great reaction on Raw a couple weeks ago when we were in Boston. When WWE was in Boston, I was there. But, yeah, I would put Banks in the title picture right now. Other than that, I have no idea what you do. I honestly could not care less about Brie Bella going back after the title. And other than that, who do you have? Alicia Fox and Naomi, who also no one cares about right now. So, yeah, I would just do Charlotte and Sasha for the belt at TLC. Other than that, I really don't know. New Day Usos, we kind of got a tease of that last night, kind of. So I guess New Day Usos for the tag team titles, and a ladder match would be awesome. I'm not expecting it. Would be great, though. Yeah, so New Day Usos, Charlotte Banks, Sheamus, Reigns, Cena Del Rio. I know, like I said, they're in Boston, not Cena's hometown technically, but it is his home state, and he has come back in Boston before, Survivor Series 2008. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go that route with that pay-per-view or with that with Del Rio, unless they do Del Rio Swagger, which I know they were teasing before the pay-per-view, which they ultimately cut because Del Rio was in the tournament. So, but again, I honestly just don't care to see Del Rio Cena. I don't want to see it again. They've had decent matches. Their matches weren't bad, but how many fucking times are we going to have to sit through this feud? They feuded in 2011. They had a number of matches in 2012. They feuded in 2013. They just feuded when Del Rio came back. Like, give it a fucking rest. I was fine with the one-and-done match at Hell in a Cell, which ultimately did not benefit Del Rio because the guy's, colder than cold right now. But regardless, I just do not want to see the rekindling of that rivalry when John Cena comes back. I'm sure that's the direction they're going in, and if there's any place they're going to do it, it's going to be at TLC. I just do not care to see that at all. That's almost as bad as Sheamus and Reigns. If that happens, if we get Cena, Del Rio, and then fucking Reigns and Sheamus in the main event, I'm almost going to be on the verge of canceling my tickets to that pay-per-view. I'm going regardless. Trust me, I'm a fucking mark. I'm going to go anyway, but still, that's not a good top 2 matches for your pay-per-view. People just will not freaking care. We'll find out tonight on Raw, I guess. But other than that, I really have no idea what they're going for at TLC. I guess we'll find out in the weeks to come. Their next question, how long should Sheamus be WWE World Heavyweight Champion? Honestly, I would take the title off of him tonight, because I'll go on a rant on this, I guess, a little bit later, but I just don't care. I like Sheamus. Don't take this as, I hate Sheamus, I find him boring, like a lot of people do. I like Sheamus. I was among the few that marked out when he came back as a heel. I was among the few that defended the choice to put the briefcase on Sheamus, because they felt like, okay, he's been decent since he came back. He's, got a fresh look, a fresh character. He's so much better as a heel than he is as a babyface. He's very good in the ring, and putting him back in the main event scene would be something new. I know he was in the main event scene a number of times in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, but it's been a couple years, and it could be something new. Now, silly me for thinking that, because the guy's been booked like shit in the last couple of months. RJ talked about in his latest blog from Next Era Wrestling, cheap plug, be sure to check it out, it's a great article, but he talks about how the guy's done nothing. He feuded with the Lucha Dragons, with, a team with Wade Barrett, which had potential, but I don't care. Both guys are losers. He had a feud with Dolph Ziggler, a lot of, even Steven booking, didn't care. Good matches, but I didn't care. The whole feud with Randy Orton was a complete waste of time. We've seen that how many times over the last 20 years. So the guy's just not in a good spot to be champion right now. Again, I like Sheamus, but the booking of his character has been absolutely atrocious, and people will not care about this guy as champion. I do not want to hear that, because the internet hates him, or just fans in general do not like Sheamus, that they're disgusted by him, that equals heat. That does not equal heat. And that go away heat, or whatever you want to call it. In this case, people will just not care. They will not boo Sheamus. They will just sit on their hands. Go back to any Raw over the past 3 months. People, when he comes out, do not boo. They just do not freaking care. They just sit on their hands. Again, I like Sheamus. I want this to work. He's got to be booked strongly. And I don't want to hear the argument that just because, every past Money in the Bank holder, because they were booked like shit and when they won the belt, they were perfectly fine. Yes, I do not traditionally agree with the way of doing things in terms of booking the MITB winners to look like shit before they cash in, so it's more of a surprise. But anyway, at least when that happened with like a guy like Dolph Ziggler, when he loses and loses and loses, he got a couple big wins, a lot more than Sheamus ever did in late 2012, early 2013. But at least people cared about Dolph Ziggler, let's face it. When he cashed in, one of the biggest moments in Raw history, bar none. One of the biggest reactions I've ever heard in my 7 years as a wrestling fan, if not of, in many years, for a lot of people. The reaction he received when he cashed in Money in the Bank and became World Heavyweight Champion the night after WrestleMania was amazing. And that was after losing the night prior at WrestleMania. So him, Damian Sandow, when he cashed in, people cared. He lost, but people cared even though he was booked like crap too. I can go on and on. Del Rio, freaking Daniel Bryan, people pop for that. So it's the same exact situation. People just did not care last night. They don't care about Sheamus. So we'll see where this goes. We'll see how he's booked. I don't have faith for it, but I would take the belt off him tonight if it's possible. I would take the belt off him at TLC. I don't think it's likely, but I would just give the belt right back to Roman Reigns. And the thing that I'm afraid of is that I feel like they're headed towards Cena and Reigns at WrestleMania, which I'm not in agreement with at all. If you want to do it with Reigns as a heel, they had their chance to turn him last night. They missed that opportunity. I know they have a boner for Sheamus, or for Sheamus too, but for Roman Reigns as being their top babyface. But it's not going to work as long as he's with his current character. Again, I like Roman Reigns. I feel like, yes, he can be a big money player for this industry, for this company. But right now, anyway, he's not being booked properly. People care about Roman Reigns a lot more than they care about Sheamus. But in order for Roman Reigns to be that big money player that John Cena is, I'm not even saying he's going to get to John Cena's level, but the closest he's going to get to that level, he will have to turn heel first and take the Rock route. And not be, he will not be The Rock, trust me, I'm not saying that. Just because they're related, I'm not saying he will be The Rock. But he could take that some sort of similar direction in that he goes heel, gets over as a heel, and goes back to being babyface. That's why he worked so well in the Shield. You go back to Survivor Series 2 years ago, when he took out every motherfucker, or like 4 out of 5 of them, in that traditional Survivor Series elimination tag team match at the start of that pay-per-view. One of the worst pay-per-views I've ever seen as a fan. Worse than last night, trust me. But he was the star of that show. Eliminated 4 of the 5 guys on that team and looked like an absolute freaking star. And people were ready for Roman Reigns to break out. People were praising the hell out of that guy. And that was because he was a heel. He didn't have to talk. He didn't have to do all this other crap every single week. So I would turn him heel first before giving the belt to him. But the whole point I'm trying to make here is that I do not want to see Cena and Reigns one-on-one babyface and babyface at WrestleMania. It's not going to work. It's not the next Hogan and Warrior from WrestleMania 6. That was completely different. If Cena and Reigns were wrestling in 1990, maybe it would work then, but it's not going to work today. People just do not like John Cena. He doesn't obviously get... People care about John Cena, but he's not getting the reactions that Roman Reigns is. Anyway, so I would not do that match. I know this is kind of going off your question here, but if Sheamus loses the belt to freaking John Cena of all people, the Royal Rumble, a match, again, I have no inclination of seeing ever again. If they do that match, give the belt to John Cena, his 16-time world champion, it becomes a 16-time world champion, whatever. But I don't want to see him face Roman Reigns because I feel like that match will not work as long as Roman Reigns is the babyface. I don't even know if people would care about it even if he's a heel, but I feel like as a babyface, people will shit all over that match at WrestleMania. It goes back to what I said earlier. Just because Cena is hated by the IWC or just by wrestling fans in general, that they're going to start automatically cheering Roman Reigns. It's not the way it works. Trust me, people will just completely shit all over the match, especially if it doesn't deliver from an in-ring standpoint. Moving along here to the Facebook questions from Mark S., the first of a few here. What was your opinion of Survivor Series as a pay-per-view? Again, like I said, I enjoyed it for the most part. I'm not saying, I know I've seen a lot of hate online, one of the worst pay-per-views of all time, one of the worst Survivor Series shows of all time. It definitely wasn't one of the better ones. I'm not going to say it was one of the worst shows ever, because I thought the first hour was very, very good. I thought Cena wasn't even on the show, Owens and Ambrose, then Del Rio and Reigns delivered 2 very good matches, a great way of kicking off the show. The traditional pay-per-view, or the traditional Survivor Series elimination tag team match. The second one, the one of the pre-show, I thought was fun. The second one didn't really do much for me. Didn't give a crap. They didn't bother to announce it ahead of time. That's why the crowd didn't give 2 shits about it. They sat on their hands the whole time. The 3-on-1 booking against the heel against Sheamus really made no sense. The Divas title match was very good. Ziggler and Breeze, also another good match. But the crowd didn't care. And why should they have? Because the booking of these bouts have meant nothing. They've been booked so horribly that I didn't give 2 craps about them. So anyway, 2 good matches. Taker and Kane against the Wyatt family. Again, another solid match, and I'm glad The Undertaker got a big showcase, but the Wyatt family are glorified losers at this point. And the main event was rather disappointing. Ambrose and Reigns did not deliver the kind of match I thought they would. Not because of a lack of chemistry, just because I feel like they didn't have the time that they deserved. They only got 9 minutes. It was one of the shortest matches in the entire show, with the exception of Sheamus and Reigns, the impromptu cash-in, which doesn't technically count, and then Ziggler and Breeze, which went 6 minutes. So that's ridiculous. For a main event of a Big 4 pay-per-view, 9 fucking minutes was ridiculous. Especially after the main event last year, which I know was a 5-on-5 tag team match. That went almost an hour. But anyway. So yeah, on the whole, I enjoyed it, but the ending really left a lot to be desired. That was really, really predictable. The whole tourney was predictable. I'm surprised they didn't throw a swerve of some kind. And no, Sheamus cashing in is not a swerve of any sort. But yeah, I thought the show on the whole, I'd give it a thumbs in the middle to thumbs down. But I didn't really, not even close to hating it as much as other people did. Maybe just because I'm easily entertained. Are you not entertained? As Sheamus would say, I guess. But I thought it was enjoyable for the first 2 hours. The first hour was by far the best. The second hour was kind of, it was good. The third hour was a total disappointment. The tag team match with the Brothers of Destruction was really good. I enjoyed that. It was entertaining. Not a great wrestling match, but it was entertaining for what it was. And the main event was a total disappointment. Sheamus cashes in. I don't give a fuck at all. So the ending was awful, but the rest of the show I thought was okay. I thought it was good. Just me anyway. That's just my 2 cents. His second question: if Daniel Bryan was cleared to return to WWE, what would you like to see him involved in? Very good question. I mean, I really don't have a preference. I mean, ideally, I would put him back in the main event, but I know WWE has a lot of concern over his health status and that whether he could deliver at that level anymore, which kind of sucks. I could see where they're coming from, and it is pretty bad. I mean, that really is a disappointment, but ideally, I'd put him back in the main event scene, have him, I mean, Rollins is out right now, but I'd have him feud with Rollins and Reigns and Ambrose, all fresh feeds that we've never seen before, so I would do that. Other than that, maybe put him back in the IC title picture. I know that's the belt that he vacated before he left to kind of make that belt mean even more than what Owens is doing right now, which has been good. He's been a good champion thus far. But yeah, maybe do Owens and Bryan for the IC title. That'd be a pretty great feud. So yeah, I do that. Other than that, I really don't know. Just to have Daniel Bryan back, period, would be great, because we need so much more depth in the roster. You know, Bryan's out, Orton's out, Rusev's out, Cena's out right now, Sting's hurt. There's a lot of guys that are out right now. Cesaro he's gonna be out for 4 to 6 months. They're in a very bad place right now. So I would bring back Daniel Bryan. Just to have him back would be great. But yeah, maybe in a feud in the world title scene, if they had enough faith in him to deliver at that level again and would not get hurt. Either that or put him back in the IC title picture with Kevin Owens. His third question here: what is your opinion about Dash and Dawson as tag team champions? Do they need to be changed? Do they need to change their style since becoming champions to become good, solid champions, since they focus on the body parts to get a win at the moment? Do they need to mix it up to remain entertaining as possible as long-term champions? I like Dash and Dawson. They're not my favorite team in NXT. That obviously has to go to Chad Gable and Jason Jordan. But I think they're a good team. They're a nice old school tag team. That's what I like about them. They feel old school. You know, cheap plug here for my t-shirt, which my aunt actually got me. It's a great shirt. I like the old school feel to their team. They're simplistic. They got a good theme. They're aggressive in the ring. And what I like about them is exactly what you mentioned. They target one body part and they go right after. That is old school wrestling psychology right there, which a lot of wrestlers just completely overlook nowadays. And I'm a fan of that old school logic in targeting a body part and going after and selling that injury even after the match is over and you move on to the next match. I'm a big fan of that, and that's what I like about Dash and Dawson. They're good champions. I feel like they might be transitional. I don't know who they'll drop the belts to, either Jordan and Gable or whoever. But yeah, I mean, I think they're good champions. They just need to continue to evolve as an act and give us a reason to care about them. Other than that, I feel like they've been good champs, and they've only been champs for like 2 weeks. But they do have potential, though. And Mark's fourth question here: what's next for the Wyatt family after Survivor Series? Do they need to go back to the core Wyatt family, like have Luke Harper and Eric Rowan gunning for the tag team titles, and have Bray Wyatt managing Strowman? So I kind of answered this before. I'd like to see him in a feud with the Dudley Boys. But you said to do a tag team with Harper and Rowan after the tag team titles, and then put Wyatt with Strowman. Wyatt should be wrestling. I mean, Strowman's not there yet. If anything, it should be the other way around. Strowman should be working primarily tag team matches right now. He is not ready. I don't know if he'll ever be ready. The guy is just not a good worker. He needs to be carried to a competent match. He's just not there yet, so it should be the other way around. I do like the idea of Harper and Rowan going after the tag team titles. Maybe not right now when New Day are champions. I think New Day and Usos will be feuding next. But at some point, they should re-enter that tag team title picture. It should be, Usos and the Wyatt family maybe versus the New Day in a triple threat would be amazing. So I'd be in total favor of putting them back in the title picture before long. But what's next for them immediately after the pay-per-view right now? Like I said, maybe a feud of the Dudleys, but other than that, I really have no idea. Moving forward here to the rest of the Facebook questions from Justin G. First one being, during their tag team run at TNA, I was a huge fan of the Motor City Machine Guns, and I've always felt that Shelley and Sabin should be WWE superstars. Could be WWE superstars. Do you think that Sabin and Shelley could have been a legitimate tag team under the WWE banner, or do you think they would suffer with the promotion? I'm with you. I love the Motor City Machine Guns. I thought they were a great team. I was kind of disappointed their run in 2012 when they reunited after a few years was very short-lived. And I think Sabin got injured again, so that's why. And then before he came back, Shelley left the promotion, which kind of sucked. I know Sabin's with Ring of Honor right now. I think Shelley's doing New Japan stuff. I'm pretty sure he's half of their tag team champions over there with Out of Time or whatever the Time Splitters. I'm pretty sure he's a part of. So they're both guys are doing pretty well right now on the independent scene. I don't know if WWE would bring them in now. I mean, they were very much a hot tag team years ago, not so much anymore. They're not even teaming anymore. So I don't even know if it's a realistic possibility, but it would be great to see. The same reason why I would love to see Beer Money in WWE. They wouldn't be the same characters they were in TNA, but just the Motor City Machine Guns. I mean, I could see why the Young Bucks wouldn't go. I feel like they felt like they wouldn't have been used properly in WWE, which is a legitimate concern. I understand that. But for the Motor City Machine Guns, why not? I mean, they're doing well for themselves right now. Maybe that's why they don't really want to change anything. But if WWE did express interest in bringing them in, I'd love to see it. They could have some great matches with the Dudley Boys, with the Usos, with all these other tag teams, the Primetime Players, the New Day, etc., etc. So I would love to see it. Maybe they would flourish more so a couple of years ago than now because they haven't been together in a while. But maybe flourish now more than then, I guess, because, when WWE used to bring in people from other companies like TNA, they would never use them right. Like a Vance Archer was a total fucking waste of that guy. And he was around for a cup of coffee. And then Motor City Machine Guns, because they are TNA originals, to an extent, they would have been buried a couple years ago and gone within a couple months. At least now they have more of a shot of succeeding, because Triple H kind of recognizes the vision for guys like them and how valuable of an asset they can be to the brand. His next question, buy or sell WWE's Cruiserweight division or TNA's X division? I'm pretty sure this is a question on the sound off for the Salamonster, and I don't know if he was asked. I think he was asked the WCW Cruiserweight division and then the X division. And this question's different. You're asking WWE's Cruiserweight division and then TNA's X division. If you're asking WCW, which was the question that the Salamonster got, I would go with the WCW Cruiserweight division because it was far and beyond above anything else that we were seeing at that time in WCW. The best wrestling that you would ever see, and gave birth to stars like Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio, all future world champions. In the X division, they never really did it right. That said, you could say the same thing about the Cruiserweight division in WWE. The WWE, they tried to replicate the success. The light heavyweight division was a total fucking joke in the late 90s, let's face it. But at least they had more success with the Cruiserweight division in WWE and the SmackDown brand from like the mid-2000s to when it was retired in 2007. TNA's X division, I feel like, was more of a success than that. You had guys like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels having some of the best matches of the year in wrestling in 2005 and 2006 and 2004. The X division, it would later, flounder going into like the 2010s, I should say, when they brought in like fucking Abyss and they ruined it and it wasn't special anymore. So yeah, I mean, but for a good part of TNA's history, the X division was a big part of that from 2002 to, I would say, 2008, 2009. So I would go the X division. I would buy in the X division for TNA and then sell on WWE's Cruiserweight division. I would buy on the WCW Cruiserweight division. But if you're talking about WWE, it was never what it could have been. They were all undercard. At least TNA X division was given a chance to shine a lot longer than the Cruiserweight division in WWE. So I would sell on the Cruiserweight division in WWE, then buy on the X division in TNA. His next question, I am personally feeling that Kalisto can break out on his own in the WWE without Sin Cara. Do you think the WWE will ever break up the Lucha Dragons and let Kalisto test the waters as a singles competitor in the future? Absolutely. I mean, I've said it before. RJ said it. I've said it. I wrote an article about it on Hidden Remote a couple weeks ago. I've been saying it since the guy came into NXT about 2 years ago. He has star written all over him. I'm not just saying that because he looks like Rey Mysterio and he talks like Rey Mysterio. I feel like he can be the answer to WWE's lack of Latino stars. Del Rio, good for you, but the guy is just uninteresting to me in WWE. In Lucha Underground, he was great, but since he came back, the guy's been a total flop. I don't care about him. He's winning matches, but I don't give two shits about the guy because he's been booked to look like, not a loser, but he's just boring. He's freaking boring. So, anyway, yeah, I would, what was even your question? Oh, Kalisto, yeah, I would break him out as a single star before long. Lucha Dragons, give him a run with the tag team titles first, I'd say. I don't know when that would be, when you have the Usos back and the New Day and the Dudley Boys, but at some point I'd give them the straps. And even if not, they weren't tag team champions in NXT, so it's not a complete waste. And I feel like he can be a single star, but you got to book him properly. The win over Ryback was good. The match with Del Rio was lousy. He got squashed by Big E in a minute on SmackDown last week, which was very, very bizarre. But yeah, I thought Kalisto can be a big star for this company if they book him properly. So yeah, I would absolutely love to see him as a single star, a successful single star in the future. Maybe not sooner rather than later, but definitely at some point. Now moving on to the Twitter questions at JDYCW. That's a tongue twister. JDY. No, not JDY. JDJ. CW555. There we go. I apologize for mispronouncing your handle, but a lot of letters and numbers in there. Has a Money in the Bank briefcase been used improperly throughout the past few years, 2011 to present day? Yeah, to some people I'd say yes. Not to everyone. I wouldn't generalize and say that everyone who's held the briefcase in the last 4 years has been booked wrong. Let's backtrack here. In 2011, we had Del Rio. I mean, he held it for a month and cashed in. That's just fine and dandy. You know, the reign was awful. He had the title for a freaking month before they took it off of him. But the reign itself was fine. I mean, it was logical to put the briefcase on him. Daniel Bryan was booked to look like a loser, but he cashed and had a big moment, so I wouldn't call that a bust. In 2012, Ziggler had a great reign as Mr. Money in the Bank, if you ask me. I mean, he lost towards the end, but he had a lot of big wins at Survivor Series and TLC in the main event. So his wasn't a total bust, and the cash-in was awesome. And then also that year we had John Cena, who cashed in unsuccessfully. It was in the midst of Punk's, reign as WWE champion, so I get it. Then in 2013, Sandow was a failure, and then Orton cashed in the next month. And then Rollins was awesome. I think I'd call him the next best Mr. Money in the Bank next to Edge, which is probably saying a lot, but let's face it, for the most part, the guy was always involved in the main event scene. He beat Ambrose 3 times. He was in the main event of Survivor Series. He beat John Cena on a handful of occasions. He was in the WWE title match at the Royal Rumble, had an amazing match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania, won at Fastlane. So he wasn't losing all the time, let's face it. And then he had an amazing cash in at WrestleMania in the main event for the first time ever on the grand stage in the middle of a match. So I'd say Rollins was one of the better Mr. Money in the Banks right next to Edge, who revolutionized the concept. That said, I would not stereotype and say, or generalize and say that the briefcase has been used improperly for the last 4 years. Sheamus' reign has been a complete and total flop. I don't know why they bothered to give him the briefcase. I was not against it, like I said earlier, when they first gave him the briefcase, but it turned out to be a failure. No one gives two fucks about this guy right now. He's a total loser. No one gives a shit about him. He gets no reaction. He's a good wrestler, but no one cares. No one freaking cares. And the cash-in was awful because it was so predictable. So, yeah, I mean, I would not say the Money in the Bank briefcase, it's kind of lost its luster a little bit because we've seen it time and time again over the last 10 years. I would not get rid of the matchup. But if you give it to the right guy and book him the right way, then it works. But if you give it to a guy like Sheamus and you have him lose every single week, which isn't always a bad thing, but the cash-in was predictable. No one cares about him right now. He's a good wrestler, but his character's terrible. So yeah, it's just been used improperly this year. Rollins was awesome, and then you go to a year later, it's a complete opposite with Sheamus. So I wouldn't say get rid of the gimmick, get rid of the match. There's still money in there, no pun intended, in the matchup. But Sheamus' Mr. Money in the Bank did not give me any hope for him as a champion whatsoever. At Sean Marcustic, his question was, thoughts on Sheamus winning the world title? Thoughts on Sheamus winning the world title? Excuse me. Like I already said, that no one cares about him. I just don't care. I like Sheamus, but he's been booked so horribly that just no one gives a fuck about his reign. We'll see how it plays out tonight, but I just don't think he'll fill in the shoes of Randy Orton and Seth Rollins very well as the top heel in the Authority. Just why? There's so many other guys that could put as the top heel. Bray Wyatt, Kevin Owens, and maybe Del Rio, but just no one cares about Sheamus. So, yeah, I just feel like the cash-in was a waste because it was so predictable. Everyone could see it coming, and just to put the briefcase on him to begin with was just so ridiculous because no one cares. He's been booked awful since he came back, but yeah, winning the world title last night could be seen coming from 10,000 miles away. It's all about the aftermath. Well, ask me in a month, and we'll see where we are with Sheamus as world champion, but right now, I'm just not buying it. Push, repackage, release. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Dean Ambrose. It's a really hard one, and I hate to say it. I would push Lesnar because the guy's one of a kind. How can you not push Lesnar? I would repackage Reigns, and I would get rid of Ambrose just because I know Reigns is going to be the guy who they really want to strap in as the next face of their company, not Dean Ambrose. That's why I say repackage Reigns, turn him heel first, and get rid of Ambrose. Of these three, I love Dean Ambrose. He's my favorite right now, but I'm saying that just because Reigns, whether you want to admit it or not, will be the guy in the years to come, whether his booking indicates that or not. He's going to be a big money player for this company as long as they stay the track with him, stay the course, and they try to rectify his booking by turning him heel first. Dean Ambrose is going to make a lot of money for this company too, but he's not going to be the guy like Roman Reigns is. So I would push Lesnar, because why would you not push Lesnar? The guy is the biggest money player they have right now, with the exception of John Cena. Repackage Reigns, and as much as I hate to say it, release Dean Ambrose. At RJ_Marceau, how long does Sheamus hold on to the belt? Can WWE make people care about him? The second part of that question remains to be seen. I guess we'll find out tonight how he's booked in the weeks to come. But again, RJ said it in his article. I've been saying it all video long. I've been saying it for weeks now. I like Sheamus. I'm not a Sheamus hater. The guy has just been booked like complete shit, and no one fucking cares about him. So like I said, I'd take the title off of him tonight if it was up to me, or at TLC, but it looks like he might be holding on to the belt until at least the Royal Rumble. He will not walk into WrestleMania as champion. I think we can all agree on that right now. But honestly, I think I've always wanted to see Sheamus and Lesnar. So maybe Reigns fails in winning the title of TLC and Lesnar gets a rematch, because he was fucked out of the title. And now that I think about it, that could be a really good idea. Because Lesnar was fucked out of the title shot at Battleground. He still deserves another shot now that he's done with Taker. He comes back, goes after the belt, faces Sheamus at Royal Rumble, beats the living shit out of him, wins back the title, and then defends against whoever at WrestleMania. I don't want to see Roman Reigns win the Rumble again. I was fine with Roman Reigns and Lesnar at WrestleMania if you asked me 2 weeks ago, but that was only if Reigns was champion going into the event as a heel. And right now, that does not look like it's plausible at all. So I would give the belt back to Lesnar, have him go into WrestleMania as champion, then defend against, I would not put it against Cena, God forbid, or Roman Reigns again. Other than that, I have no idea what you do. Rock doesn't look to be wrestling. Ambrose would be cool. I just don't see that happening. So other than that, I really don't know. But that's what I would do. I don't know what you would do with a Rumble winner. It'd probably be Roman Reigns, unfortunately. But yeah, but if not, have him drop it at TLC. But I'd probably do it at the Rumble, which is looking like where he's going to drop it anyway. To Brock Lesnar. You get that dream. I don't know if I'd call it a dream match, but it's a match I've been wanting to see for a long time now. You get Lesnar, you get the belt back on Lesnar, you get the match that some people have been looking forward to for a while now, you get the belt off Sheamus more importantly than anything else, and then going into WrestleMania, Lesnar's champion. It's a win-win-win. I'd love to see it that way. I don't know, like I said, I don't know who you have to win the Rumble, but that's the way that I would book it. At the average grunt, I got a few what-ifs for you. Number 1, what if Benoit faced Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20? And 2, what if Bryan wasn't fired in 2010? Two very good questions. If Benoit faced Lesnar at WrestleMania 20, that's the match. I mean, Benoit, Michaels, and Triple H had one of the best main events of all time. Let's face it. Despite the reign that Benoit had, although it was long, there was never really intention to make him the guy on Raw. You know, I don't know why. Maybe because he was over at that time. I really don't know. But anyway, we still got a great match out of him, Triple H, and Michaels in the main event, so I think it worked out pretty well. But Lesnar and Goldberg had a great build, just the match sucked, and just the circumstances surrounding it kind of made it bad. The match, you know, just in ring-wise, it just was not good. It was entertaining for the wrong reasons, but it was not a good technical wrestling match. But anyway, Benoit Lesnar could have been a hell of a match. And it's not like, no, I'm not even going to say that, it's not realistic that Benoit would tap out Brock Lesnar. Because it is. If you look at it, Survivor Series 2003, I was shocked. Benoit forced Brock Lesnar to tap out. Think about that for a second. Chris Benoit, before he even won the Rumble, won the world title in the main event, he forced Brock Lesnar, who was the then WWE champion, to tap out at that pay-per-view. Forced him to fucking tap out. Brock Lesnar has tapped out to no one with the exception of Kurt Angle, and he tapped out to Chris Benoit. There you go. So I feel like it would have been absolutely realistic to do that match at WrestleMania. I don't know where that would have left the other guys. To do Triple H and Michaels again, I would have been for it. I mean, they had great matches always anyway. We've seen it a million times at that point. But to do Triple H and Michaels at WrestleMania, it would have been fine because they had great history, and Benoit, or rather Michaels, could have finally won back the belt. And then you could have Lesnar lose the belt to Benoit on his way out. Would have made perfect sense. Would have been awesome if they did it that way. Then Goldberg would have faced, God knows, I would have put him against Stone Cold. That would have been one hell of a card. They put Goldberg, Austin. I know his health wasn't right. But still, yeah, if you had Goldberg, Austin, Benoit, Lesnar, Triple H, Michaels, best WrestleMania of all time. WrestleMania 20 was still good. Shouldn't have been 5 hours or however long it was, but it was a fucking long show. But that would have been an even better card had they booked it that way. Number 2, if Bryan wasn't fired in 2010, probably would have stuck with the Nexus and had him break away at one point and then done probably what they ended up doing with him and Miz, and then maybe him and Barrett feuded for a while going into SummerSlam. He would have broken out before long. They would have continued on with the the SummerSlam plans with Nexus and John Cena and John Cena's team. But I would imagine that Bryan would have broken out of that shell by SummerSlam, if not at SummerSlam, to feud with the Nexus and maybe later feud with Miz. So it wouldn't have been that much different, but it would have been interesting to see how it would have played out had he stuck around with the Nexus. Couldn't tell you for sure. Bryan's never said what the plans would have been had he not gotten fired. I'm pretty sure he didn't have any idea. Because from what I know, and talking to Michael Tarver, and interviewing him, cheap plug, the interview's here on the channel, he said they were told that night about the Nexus invasion and not what the plans were 3 months down the line. They just gave him the plans for that night, and that was it. So that was when Bryan was fired. He got fired right after the invasion. So yeah, like I said, he probably would have continued on with the Nexus through the summer and maybe had a match, was a part of the Team Nexus versus Team WWE match at SummerSlam, maybe would have turned there. But I feel like as popular as he was and as big of a star as he was as compared to the other guys that part of the NXT class, he would have been out of that group and been the breakout babyface, so to speak, of that group before long. At E13A, also from Twitter, did Survivor Series underwhelm? It was fun, but I was expecting more drama from Charlotte Paige, Undertaker, Kane, Wyatt, and Ambrose and Reigns. Yeah, I mean, it was underwhelming to an extent. Like you said, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I thought the first hour was great. The second hour and third hour, not so much. So it did underwhelm from to an extent, but especially the main event, which was very disappointing. Ambrose and Reigns, like you said, very, very underwhelming. The match got 9 minutes, which was ridiculous. They weren't given the time they deserved to have that great match that they are capable of, that I feel like anyway. The ending with Sheamus cashing in was totally predictable. No one gave two shits about it. So yeah, the ending was very very underwhelming rather, more than anything else. But overall, the pay-per-view I thought was good. Could have been a lot more. They desperately needed to hit a home run on Sunday. They failed to do that. So we'll see where they go going forward. But yeah, I do agree that they did underwhelm to an extent. I enjoyed it, but it absolutely was underwhelming. His second question is, Charlotte's main roster push, exposed her and done more harm than good. Absolutely. I mean, maybe it's not just because she's gotten a push in the main roster. I don't feel like that's just it. But just all the factors that have gone into it, just because, they just don't know how to book the women in the main roster. Charlotte in NXT got over because of her great match with Natalya at that TakeOver special last May. She got over because she was a great goddamn wrestler, not because of her amazing promos or her amazing whatever. She got character development, not by talking, but by winning over the fans with her great in-ring abilities. I've never been the biggest Charlotte fan, but I feel like she can't be a major player in this division not just because she's Flair's daughter. She's good, and she has all the tools to be a big player, but she's been booked very, again, haphazardly, a lot like the Wyatt family. Just because she's champion doesn't mean she gets all the focus, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it's been for the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months since she won the belt. Excuse my eyes like burning right now for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I saw Sheamus cash in last night. That's why my eyes hurting right now. Anyway. So yeah, I feel like Charlotte's, when she's coming to the main roster, it's just because they don't know how to book the women. She's been booked terribly because she's been shoved down our throat. She won the belt immediately, which wasn't the wrong thing to do, but she's just been booked so strange in that I just have no reason to care about her other than she's Ric Flair's daughter. She's doing it for Reed, which is good, but other than that, I have no reason to care about her other than the do it with Flair and the woos and all this other shit, which would work as a heel, but as a babyface, I just don't care. That's why I thought she was a better babyface, or I thought she was a better heel, rather, in NXT than she was a babyface. So yeah, it definitely has, coming to the main roster, has definitely done more harm than good for Charlotte, I feel like. His next question, how do you think Cesaro's shoulder injury will affect his career? Not too big. Like I said earlier, the guy was not en route to a big main event push before he got hurt. He was likely going to be feuding with Stardust. He was going to be involved in the pre-show kickoff match last night, so it's not like he was going to be feuding with Sheamus for the world title. Let's not joke around here. So, yeah, sure, Cesaro, I'm not saying it's going to be a blessing in disguise. It's awful that he's out. He's a great wrestler. He's one of the highlights of Raw every single week. But it's not going to affect his career too much because it's not like he was not on the verge of a main event push before he got hurt. So we'll see where he is when he comes back. I'd reckon a guess that he's going to be involved with Tyson Kidd again when he comes back, which would be cool. Tyson Kidd should be back around that time. A reunion with him and Kidd in the tag team division would be awesome. But I feel like there is still hope for a main event push for him because he's so over and he's so exciting, and he will, when he comes back, will be still over as long as WWE books him properly. No holding my breath, but one can really only hope. At Daniel Cabeza 59, do you think Dean Ambrose losing to Roman Reigns, or Dean Ambrose? No, let me rephrase that. I completely botched this question here. Do you think Kevin Owens losing to Dean Ambrose, who did not turn heel, was a bad decision because Kevin Owens is the Intercontinental Champion? I don't think the loss killed Kevin Owens. It was a clean loss, sure, but it came after a good match. And Daniel himself pointed out to me on Twitter, and he made a good point, and I mean, I'm not shocked by this. He mentioned how Kevin Owens, it took him like 3 AAs and one off the top rope at Battleground to put him away, yet it took only one Dirty Deeds to pin him on Sunday night, which makes absolutely no sense, but WWE expects us to forget about things that happened months ago, much less yesterday, so I'm not shocked at that whatsoever, and it didn't really bother me, because it sucks, it doesn't make any sense at all, but I'm not shocked, hence why it didn't really bother me. But yeah, Ambrose losing or Ambrose beating Owens clean, I don't think it was a huge deal. Owens has been booked, by and large pretty well since he won the belt, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Again, it's all about the aftermath. I hate to keep on saying that, but it's true. It's really all about how he's booked going forward. An Ambrose-Owens match, now that he's beaten the champion, I think once, he lost him via DQ after Owens got himself DQ'd. I think Ambrose lost via DQ because Owens did some underhanded tactics on SmackDown a while ago. Anyway, now that Ambrose is out of the WWE title picture, seemingly, I would put him with Owens going to TLC. Those guys could have a very good match with that belt at the pay-per-view, so I'm looking forward to that. If that's the route they're going anyway. The second question, do you think the WWE needs Daniel Bryan now that they don't have a believable superstar for WrestleMania 32? They definitely need Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, all these guys that I mentioned before who are down and out right now with injuries. More baby faces, the better. I mean, Daniel Bryan is one of the only guys in the roster that people genuinely care about and would get the push he deserves because WWE, like they learned the last time, they can't hold the guy down. Dolph Ziggler, Cearo, they're all great, they're all over, but WWE's not going to push them, give them the push they deserve just because they can get away with it, I guess. I have no idea. But Daniel Bryan, they need him now more than ever with so many people out right now, and I feel like he would inject a lot of new life into the product if he was to come back. I don't know what even his deal is. I guess the WWE doctor won't clear him. He went to an actual doctor outside of WWE. They cleared him. He went to a third doctor. The results haven't been disclosed yet. I really have no idea what's going on with Daniel Bryan, but I do know for a fact WWE needs him right now more than ever, with the roster depth being so bad and with so many people out with injuries. His next question, who do you think WWE needs to hire right now that the NXT lacks good women wrestlers? Asuka and Bayley are the only good ones for me. Who do they need to hire? I mean, they have some good people in NXT. I mean, Eva Marie isn't cutting it. Nia Jax is getting there, but she's not there yet. Carmella is not good, but she's improving. Alexa Bliss is really good, but they need more women's wrestlers, like you said. Who should they hire? Mickie James coming in would be cool, but you shouldn't always rely on like the big stars and stuff like that. If anything, she should be in the main roster, but coming into NXT would be awesome. I know Bayley's a big fan of hers, so to have those two work a program would be fucking fantastic. But anyway, who would I hire for the women's division in NXT? I'm not as aware, I guess is the word, of like the women's wrestlers on the indie circuit right now as I am as the males. Like if you ask me who should they hire from like Ring of Honor or the indie scene, I'll give you like 4 or 5 names. But for the women, I'm not as aware because I don't watch like Evolve or whatever the women's or Shimmer or whatever it is. I don't watch those promotions, so therefore I'm not really all that familiar with those women. Maria, I guess, would be one, not just because she's a great wrestler, but she's a great manager. So maybe her. But other than that, I mean, Alexa Bliss is the same way. But I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, Taryn Terrell, Awesome Kong, Gail Kim would all be awesome from TNA. I feel like all 3 of those girls would be great additions to NXT, especially Taryn Terrell, who didn't do much in WWE before she left the first time, before she got cut. She was a good GM for ECW. She was hot as hell, but she wasn't a good worker at that time. She's improved immensely since then. She could do a lot for NXT if she was to come back. But other than that, I couldn't tell you. I'd have to do my research in that a little further just because I'm not all that aware of the women's wrestlers right now on the indie circuit. His next question, do you think that Stone Cold's heel turn at WrestleMania 17 was a bad move for WWE? Absolutely. You don't need me to tell you that. I mean, Stone Cold's heel turn at WrestleMania, although it was a shock of shockers, and I mean, it was a big moment, don't get me wrong, but it single-handedly killed WWE's business. It was the official end of the Attitude Era. The guy was... I mean, Stone Cold, he worked as a good heel, don't get me wrong, but just because people cared about him so much as a babyface during that Attitude Era, but because when he turned heel, people just tuned out. They stopped watching. That's where all the fans went, because as soon as WCW died, and those fans disappeared, never to return, and then Austin went heel, never to... I mean, he would go back babyface, but by that point it was too late, and they put him in the mid-card match at WrestleMania 18. So by that point, people just left. They stopped watching. The whole feud that people watched the product for between him and McMahon was done, so why bother watching? They tuned out, and they never come back. So yeah, it was absolutely a bad move. As Stone Cold has said himself on various podcasts, on various platforms, he would have turned on Rock, but he also would have stunned McMahon afterwards, thus keeping his character intact. I would have done the same exact thing, but yeah, the heel turn at WrestleMania 17 made for a big moment, but it was the wrong moment, and it killed business absolutely from that point forward throughout the rest of 01, and the ratings haven't been the same since. And moving on to the questions now from @Scarlet1, also from the Twitter. Should Big Match John, or their question was, do you think that Big Match John is going to steamroll Sheamus to build to that Cena Del Rio title unification match at WrestleMania? Oh my God, that'd be terrible. I do not want to see that at all. I don't want to see. Oh, that's like the probably the three worst people that you can have in any combination with. Del Rio, Sheamus, Cena. We've seen Del Rio, Cena to death. God knows we've seen Del Rio, Sheamus to death back in 2012. We've seen Cena, Sheamus a million times. I just have no desire to see any three of those guys in the main event scene right now. Absolutely not. You bring up a good point. I really hope that's not the direction they're going in with Sheamus. To do Sheamus, Cena at TLC or at Royal Rumble to build to, or Cena Del Rio. That sounds awful all the way around. Cena Del Rio or WrestleMania would be the absolute worst thing they can possibly do. Cena, Sheamus again, I just do not give two shits about that feud. So I really, really hope you're wrong. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised knowing WWE and how high they are on all three guys, but that would be the single-handedly worst WrestleMania of all time if they did Cena Del Rio again at WrestleMania. God, no. Do not sign me up for that. Their next question, do you have hope for Goldust after returning at the Survivor Series pay-per-view on the pre-show? A little bit. I mean, he had a good return, got a good pop, people were excited to see him, had a good showing, eliminated a few guys, seemingly rekindled his rivalry with Stardust, so I do have some hope for him. I don't feel like he's going to get his rightful due as world champion or anything like that, nor should he at this point in time. But I'm more hopeful for Sheamus, or rather Goldust, than I was coming out of WrestleMania when he was involved in that impromptu battle royal at WrestleMania. He was thrown in that like he was nothing when he should have faced Stardust at WrestleMania, or Cody Rhodes, or whatever you want to call him. So yeah, I have more hope for Goldust now than I did before he left, right after WrestleMania with his injury. Their next question, favorite Survivor Series moment of all time. So, I mean, kind of taking into consideration the years I've been watching and all the Survivor Series that I've watched, every Survivor Series, I've seen them all on the WWE Network. I don't know if it's a tie, but two moments that come to mind are Michael's world title win from 02. That match was great. The moment was even better. MSG, the build-up, Michael's at being his second match back, and just everything that went into it. The reign was a month long, when the moment itself was amazing. Gives me goosebumps every single time I watch it. So either that from the 02 Survivor Series or Sting's debut last year, because I know there were reports of it happening, because honestly, did anyone really see it coming when they did? A lot of people thought it was going to be Orton, myself included, coming down to screw over the Authority last year, but it didn't happen. It was Sting, made for an amazing moment. Again, very short-lived with the Authority being out for only 6 weeks, but it made for an amazing moment with Ziggler winning as a sole survivor. The Authority was gone temporarily, and then Sting made his WWE debut. It was phenomenal, and so it'd probably be a tie between those two moments, if not Sting's debut taking the number one spot. So going through the next few questions here pretty quickly. We got 3 questions left. First one being, also from Matt Scarlet 1, has Alberto Del Rio's return impressed or underwhelmed you? Honestly, he's been looking dead inside after Hell in a Cell. Absolutely the latter. I mean, I was among those that, it's cool, Del Rio's back, a shocker, but again, I just don't care. I mean, I said it before he even came back. I wrote a whole article about it in Hidden Remote. The guy was in his element at Lucha Underground. I thought he was great there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about Del Rio and where he makes the best living and where he's happiest. I don't know if he's happiest in WWE. I'm sure he's happy he's making the money that he is. But just so far, he had that big one over John Cena, and they failed to follow it up properly. The guys faced Neville, R-Truth, Stardust, Kalisto, all losers, and the matches aren't really all that good. He's a great wrestler, but the whole Mexican-America thing does absolutely nothing for me. I couldn't give 2 shits about the stable with him and Zeb Coulter. I like Zeb Coulter, kind of like Del Rio, couldn't give 2 craps about the stable. So hopefully they change that up or get rid of it or do something, because right now I am totally underwhelmed by Del Rio being back in WWE. I just don't care. I just don't care that he's back in WWE. Final 2 questions come from Matt Swagzio. First one being, should Roman Reigns versus Triple H happen at WrestleMania? I don't know if it'll happen at WrestleMania or even this WrestleMania, but I'm going to be writing an article about it for Bleacher on Thursday. I almost said Wednesday. I'm pretty sure it's going up on Thursday. I think that's a money match. Should have happened a couple years ago, but better late than never. With the story they're currently telling with Roman Reigns and Triple H, I would not be surprised if that's the match they go with at WrestleMania. It would beat the hell out of seeing Roman Reigns and John Cena, I'll tell you that much. So yeah, Reigns and Triple H, would love to see at WrestleMania. Should it happen? I'd say so. Other than that, what else do you do with Roman Reigns? Cena? God, no, unless Roman's a heel, but even then, I'd much rather take Roman versus Triple H, which has been building for almost 2 years, you can argue. over Reigns and Cena. And then Reigns and Lesnar. If Reigns is a babyface again, and then Lesnar's a babyface or a heel, I don't care. I'd rather see that with Reigns as the heel, but the only match with Roman Reigns as the babyface that I want to see at WrestleMania is him and Triple H. So I'd totally buy in that at WrestleMania 32. Especially if Rock isn't wrestling and we're not getting Rock and Triple H at that pay-per-view. And the final question for today, also from @Swagzio, their question was Dean Ambrose versus Roman Reigns a disappointment? Like I said earlier, definitely was a disappointment. Not because they don't have chemistry, just because they thought they weren't given the time they deserved. It was a 9-minute match. The show went off the air 15 minutes early, even with the cash-in. There's really no excuse why the match should have been rushed as much as it was. 9 minutes long? Are you kidding me? The first ever in-ring appearance, in-ring encounter between these two, and they go 9 minutes for a world title match was ridiculous. So it definitely was a disappointment, and I was kind of very underwhelming, ending, like I said earlier. But hopefully that was only a teaser of what they can do, and we can get more of them together in the ring down the line, and they're given more time, a better story, and they actually tease the possibility of them facing off, which they didn't do going into this year's Survivor Series. So that's going to do it for this week's edition, or today's edition of #AskGSM. As always, guys, thank you for sending in the questions. You guys are awesome. If you want to continue to do so, you can tweet me on the Twitter @WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Be sure to find me on Facebook. Leave a comment on the wall, or on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Or you can leave a comment on this very video. I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You guys know the deal. All support is greatly appreciated. Have a great rest of your week, guys. Enjoy Raw tonight. Hopefully it's better than Survivor Series last night. We can only hope. Trust me. Fingers crossed. But I'm looking forward to the rest of 2015. Oh, and by the way, big announcement coming on the Twitter and Facebook in the next hour, depending on when you're watching this, right after this goes up. Might already be up, so stay tuned to the Twitter and Facebook in regards to a huge name coming on WrestleRant Radio tomorrow for an exclusive interview. And a hint here, he's a former world champion in WWE, so it's going to be a huge name coming on the show. You're not going to want to miss it. So stay tuned to the socials for that exclusive breaking news announcement. So anyway, guys, like I said, have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving above all else. That will be on Thursday. We'll be back on track for another episode of #AskGSM next Monday. And until then, guys, have a good one. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.